It's the winter of 1977. Punk progenitors the Ramones were on tour in the UK after their native America wasn't overly receptive to their wild, speed-infused live shows. After the group had released 3 albums of arguably their best material, Seymour Stein, early champion of the band and head of the Ramones label Sire Records, was pushing for the group to get a live album together. Their records were great, but there was nothing like a live Ramones show. England was a perfect place to do it because the British audiences loved them and the Ramones loved to play there. The Ramones were not in the best of moods despite Stein's claim. If you know the UK, you know it's bloody horrible in the winter, very grey and not a lot of sunlight. As it was Christmas time, the country had pretty much shut down too, so the band were just twiddling their thumbs. Incidentally, this is when the song I Wanna Be Sedated was conjured up. I can't imagine why. The idea was that the last 4 shows of the year would be recorded for this live project, played in Birmingham, Stoke-on-Trent, Aylesbury and the Rainbow Theatre in London. The band was exhausted. The tour bus had a palpable tension as the group was simply fed up with travelling and naff English weather. To add to the downtrodden vibe, as described in Dee Dee's book Lobotomy, the British press were treating us like clowns. Starved of sunlight, privacy and respect, the band were feeling a bit antsy, to say the least. The first 3 of these shows, as it turns out, were largely by the book and weren't really considered good enough for the record. But come the gig at the Rainbow, the 3 warm-up shows and the aforementioned frustrations of touring had come together and a rip-roaring, once-in-a-career show was recorded on the 31st of December 1977 and created what is arguably the single greatest live album in history.
Well, it's good to be back in England and it's good to see all you again. Take a dinner.
Consisting of songs from their first 3 records, some might call them their best albums of their career, It's Alive comes in just shy of an hour as an explosive, non-stop, down-picked classic punk massacre. Guitarist Johnny Ramone reveals in his autobiography Commando that the band played the show to a crowd of 2,800 people, the largest they had played to at that point in their career. And this, along with the knowledge that they were being recorded, made him play his best. The recording of It's Alive was probably the best show that the Ramones ever did. We knew that they were recording for a live album, and we were ready. Whenever it was important, we would rise to the occasion. I would concentrate more, I would try harder. And I agree with Johnny. December 77 was arguably the best time for the Ramones to record a live album. With their 3 best career and genre-defining albums released throughout the year and fueling the tracklist, It's Alive showcases the best of what the Ramones has to offer while the Ramones were at their best. In typical Ramones style, every song is played ruthlessly fast and aggressively, and the band managed to squeeze 28 songs into the 54-minute set, with barely a breather in sight. Original drummer and producer for the band, Tommy Ramone, reveals in a Pitchfork interview that the band's signature speed came from Johnny's influence. I think it was more Johnny because he was a baseball pitcher and loved to throw fastballs. As funny as that sounds, I think it has a lot to do with it. He was impatient, and I think it was the combination of his impatience, love of speed, and wanting to get his own virtuosity across.
What they want, I don't know. I'm ripped up and ready to go.
The only real slower moment on the record is Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, but this reprieve is cut gloriously short by an explosive cover of the Trashmen's Surfing Bird. The rest of the tracklist includes Ramones classics like Blitzkrieg Bop, Teenage Lobotomy, Pinhead and Rockaway Beach to name a few.
Gabba gabba, we accept you one of us. Gabba gabba, we accept you one of us.
Although the Ramones had come over to the UK to thrive in a more accepting punk sphere, it's clear in hindsight that they were just showing us how it's done. They put their studio records to shame with It's Alive, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that once you hear it, it's hard to go back and listen to the comparatively slower album recordings. Of course, the Ramones aren't the most complex songwriters in history, but they knew how to write a catchy punk pop number. Guitar Player magazine praises the band and the album's simplicity, citing Johnny Ramone's simple rig and stripped-back style, calling the project a refreshing reminder of the beauty and importance of the humble bar chord. And I couldn't agree more. Despite the immense talent of prodigies like Jacob Collier, jazz greats like John Coltrane, or maybe prog gods like John Petrucci, I personally would rather throw on a concise, simple, no-filler, all-killer punk record, and It's Alive might be the best option to scratch that itch. Capturing the years of the conception of punk as we know it, many call this legendary record the greatest live album of all time. In a copy of Smash Hits magazine from June 1979, the album was the pick of the week. Quote, "The atmosphere is tremendous and adds hugely to the 28 favourites crammed into this double album at double speed. It's Alive is irresistible and essential." ILikeYourOldStuff.com puts it well, saying on the record, "If you only own one Ramones album, make It's Alive the one. the band's prime years condensed into 4 sides of never-bettered ballistic energy, 28 songs that will knock your socks off and leave holes in your jeans. With their status as the arguable progenitors of punk, their prolific output and the legend of It's Alive, the Ramones' legacy is hard to understate. Variety named lead singer Joey as a mensch and punk's eternal godfather on the 20th anniversary of his untimely death. Metallica guitarist James Hetfield has gone on record many times to praise Johnny Ramone as a major influence to his rapid down-picking technique.
You know, Johnny Ramone, lots of down-picking, lots of, that helped develop my style.
And of course, a myriad of bands cite the group as a major influence, from classic punk contemporaries like The Damned and The Clash, to Green Day, The White Stripes and countless others. There's a Guardian article by Paul Lester that gathers quotes from punk royalty like the Sex Pistols, Blondie, Buzzcocks, Stranglers, Television, The Damned and more, all praising the group's influence on themselves and the musical landscape as we knew it. It'll be in the references as usual, but I'll link it in the description too. There's undeniably a magic to live albums. They're an experience of their own, separate from studio albums or attending a live show. They help capture a band or artist's sound at a particular moment in time and can be seen as a time capsule for those who couldn't afford to attend a gig, if a band is either long dead, not touring any longer, past their prime, etc. And this Ramones record does exactly that. The band packed it up before I was even born, and most of the members aren't alive for any reunion shows, so this project is a privilege to listen to. The punk band that some say started the ball rolling for the genre, at their musical peak, available to listen to decades later. It's Alive proves that complexity and sophistication in music is nothing to well-crafted simplicity and is everything the Ramones stood for distilled into one project. It's the perfect live album in my eyes. The frantic, unwaveringly energetic performance has become a concert for the rock and roll history books.